This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News-free Dixie for the 21st century.
Welcome, boys and girls, scholars and laymen, to another wonderful, edutaining, infotaining edition of The Artivist Thinks. I'm your host for this empowerment segment, Brother Run, also known as R2, C2, H2, The Artivist. I want to thank everybody out there for receiving the information that we have to offer, because knowledge is the currency of the universe. Once again, knowledge is the currency of the universe. In the words of Baba Dick Gregory, bad information is bad power. Good information is good power. But information is most definitely power. And it's great when you know how to apply the information that you receive in order to get the results that you need. Learn how to apply the information that you receive in order to get the results that you need. And I'm just doing the segment. Today's date is December 4th, 2016. This is also the day a genius died and a genius was born. The genius that was born was on December 4th, 1969, by the name of Sean Carter, aka Jay-Z, a hip-hop mogul, rapper extraordinaire. Whatever you feel about him, he is most definitely a very talented and accomplished individual. Also, December 4th, 1969 marks the crucifixion of one brother, Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. of the Black Panther Party of Chicago. Chairman Fred was killed in his bed next to his pregnant fiancee, with his namesake Fred Hampton Jr. in the womb, who will be born on December 29th, 1969. He was killed in a police raid initiated by the State Attorney Office, Edward Henneran, State Attorney of Illinois, on the orders of the FBI. The FBI provided the Chicago police with the blueprint to Fred Hampton's apartment, where he lay sleeping. Mark Clark, his deputy director chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party, he was also in the apartment. He was sleeping on the couch in the living room. Fred Hampton Sr. security was compromised. His main bodyguard, William O'Neill, was an FBI snitch. He provided the blueprint. He was the quote-unquote Judas. He actually prepared Chairman Fred Hampton's last meal, probably put something in the Kool-Aid, made Chairman Fred drowsy so he wouldn't be able to defend himself. He basically was sleeping when the pigs came rushing and vamping on the apartment, shooting up everything that was black and breathing. It was crazy thing about it that more people were not killed, including his pregnant fiance. When they shot into the chairman's room, the only return fire was like basically accidental, because when they shot Mark Clark, he had a rifle or a gun in his possession. So when they shot him in the chest, he basically hit the trigger one time, and then they started shooting rounds and rounds into the apartment. Because at first, the fake news media people, the mainstream fake news media people, along with the state attorney and the Chicago police, suggesting that it was a shootout. But then the Black Panthers opened up the apartment to the public and to the press and to anybody who was interested in knowing the proof or the truth of the proof that it was a slaughter. Ballistic tests showed and everything else showed, forensics, that more bullets was entering into the apartment than was actually shot from the apartment, because there's only one bullet that got shot off, because Mark Clark was in a death spasm when he got shot in the chest. Like one black elderly woman said, it was like a northern lynching. A sister with roots in the South. And like, a lot of people don't know that Fred Hampton Sr.'s mom, who got Louisiana roots, she was Emmett Till's babysitter. Once again, Fred Hampton Sr.'s mom was Emmett Till's babysitter. You can look this up. This is verifiable. You can read a book that his friend and lawyer friend wrote, Jewish guy from Atlanta, Georgia, named Jeffrey House. We actually interviewed him a couple years ago when this book came out, The Murder of Fred Hampton. And he actually started his People's Law Office inspired by Chairman Fred Hampton and what happened to his dear friend. He tried the case in the United States court. It took him like 12 years to get some type of justice, but the families of Fred Hampton and Mark Clark was awarded close to $2 million in compensation for what happened to their loved ones on December 4th, 1969, back in the early 80s. So it took them 12 years, but also what helped them as well was the Frank Church Committee. The Senator Frank Church from Idaho, he held a committee hearing in the Senate on the intelligence community of the U.S. to showcase and to expose the abuses of the intelligence community towards its own quote-unquote American citizens. Now, this is how we found out about the extensive program of J. Edgar Hoover's COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program that was used to neutralize American citizens engaged in exercising their right to free speech and assembly, as also to be advocates for those who were being exploited and maligned by this white supremacist racist system. So I say all this to say all this stuff is available. Take a look. It's all online. Okay, all this stuff. And also we have done interviews with Jeffrey House, the lawyer, Fred Hampton's friend. We did an interview with him, and also we did an interview several years ago with Fred Hampton's brother as well too. And also we did some commentary, we all be, about Fred Hampton. We also interviewed his namesake, his living legacy, his son, Chairman Fred Hampton Jr., who has taken up the legacy of his great father, who was truly a great man, who actually was considered an enemy of the state at the age of 14 or 15. The FBI, the government was already looking at Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. when he was just a teenager because of his amazing organizational abilities and his charisma and his speaking ability. At that age, he was able to organize the Maywood, Illinois NAACP Youth Council into a very valuable and very impactful group. He was able to integrate the swimming pool, the public swimming pool of Maywood, Illinois, with his leadership in the NAACP Youth Council that he organized there. So he was always very impressive. He actually impressed other folks like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was very impressed by this young man. Especially Dr. King, I guess, ran across Chairman Fred when he was doing his housing movement in Chicago back in '66. You know, that infamous period where he got hit in the head with a brick by some crazy crackers up in Illinois. And like Dr. King, to paraphrase what he said, you know, he felt more in danger in Chicago and Cicero, Illinois than he did in certain parts of Mississippi and Alabama. He felt safer in Philadelphia, Mississippi, where they killed them 3 civil rights workers, and, you know, in comparison to Chicago, because this is myth about the North being the land of Lincoln, the land of the free. If you, even today, places like Chicago, Milwaukee, St. Louis are very racially polarized. They are very racially divided. You know, neighborhoods consisting of a majority of certain type of ethnic groups. The North is very segregated. And the irony of the South is, people talk about how racist the South is, but you get a lot of places where blacks and whites grew up together. I remember I met a sister some years ago in Greyhound. I'll never forget when I was in Greyhound. I met this sister, this elder from Alabama, and she talked about how her father owned this very successful grocery store in Alabama. This is during the Jim Crow days, but here's the thing. A lot of his clients and customers were white people, were poor white people. They actually went to his store. So getting back to Chairman Fred Hampton, even to this day, he's buried down in Louisiana where his mom and his dad is from. And even to this day, white supremacists, crackers, and all these other people still shoot at his tombstone. That's the same situation for James Meredith, the black civil rights worker who died with Michael Swerner and Andrew Goodman in Mississippi back in 1964 during Freedom Summer. They shoot at his tombstone. And also, I went to Alabama recently, this year, and I went to pay my respects to the resting place of Jimmy Lee Jackson, the guy who was killed by the Alabama State Trooper, which was dramatized in the movie Selma. He got gunshot holes in his tombstone as well too. So what is it about dead black men that scares white supremacy? What is it about black men, period, that scares white supremacy? And also, let me bring up too that we lost Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. mom recently. His mom passed away recently this year. We lost a lot of people this year, and the year is now over with, even though we are in the last month. So I was honored to be able to call his mom several years ago, to talk to her briefly on the phone, and to tell her thank you for raising that type of man, for having that type of man, and for enduring the sacrifice. Because Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. was a true soldier in America's longest running war. Let me say this again. Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. was a casualty of war in America's longest running war. You figure that out. But I'm here to talk about Kanye West. Wow, dude, you went from talking about Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. and all this stuff, and you want to talk about some Kanye? Some Kanye West? Yes, Mr. West. I want to talk about him because I think it's important. Because like Baba Dick told me, I got these magic glasses on, whatever you want to call them, and I can't help but just think about these things. So many things. Everything is connected. The greatest conspiracy is the ability to convince so many people that there are no such things as conspiracies or even conspiracies. Okay? So what I'm talking about today, can Kanye West survive the Black Messiah December death test? Can Kanye West make it out of December? Why do I bring this up? When people think about December, they think about Christmas, the birth of Christ, who was, an African, a black person. If he wasn't black, he would not have been able to hide in Egypt among the people. Kemet, land of the blacks. Okay, anyway. And white folks did not build the pyramids. We already know that. They want to call us ancient aliens, but it was ancient Africans. Okay. So I'm getting off topic. But I'm saying all this. The Black Messiah December death test. I bring this up because Kanye West, I talk about today's date being the anniversary, the 47th anniversary of the assassination, the state assassination and lynching of Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. But also you got dates like December 10th, 1967, where we lost one of the greatest singers, soul singers that ever lived, Otis Redding, in a unexplained plane crash to this day. We lost him December 10th, 1967, when his plane crashed into a lake in Wisconsin, which is still unexplained. He was just 26 years old, but he really was what they call an old soul. He was 26, but he didn't look like he was 26. He looked closer to 40 because he had such maturity. And the way he sung them songs, that boy could sing. He didn't have the greatest range, but he had some of the greatest expression. He got so much out of his voice. It's crazy. And he was a brilliant businessman. A lot of people don't know that when Otis Redding died at the age of 26, he owned all the copyrights to his songs. And this is a guy who wrote the song Respect that Aretha Franklin took and wrote it to fame. He wrote that song Respect. Imagine how much in royalties that his family is benefiting from on that one song alone. And also he wrote his famous song Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. He was sitting on the dock of the bay. He wrote that song. So he owned the copyright to that, and he controlled his publishing when he died. He had a 300-acre farm outside of Macon, Georgia, his hometown. A 300-acre farm where I believe he's buried on. He was able to make $1 million in the last year of his life in 1967. Aretha Franklin had the #1 song with Respect that he wrote. He also did his own version of the Rolling Stones classic Satisfaction. He actually changed the words to it. So it was even his own version. It was the version that Keith Richards actually preferred because he had the famous Memphis horns. We lost Wayne Jackson, part of the Memphis horns, along with Andrew Love. We lost him this year, the trumpet player. So those famous Stax horn riffs, that was what Keith Richards wanted in the Rolling Stones Satisfaction. But Otis Redding did his own thing. Otis Redding was a G when it came to this music making. And also he was very black and proud. He wanted black musicians to control their destiny by controlling their talent, by controlling their music. See, Otis Redding was one of the reasons why Stax, ended up going to bankruptcy. Because Stax found out that at the time of Otis' death, or after Otis' death, that Atlantic Records, their business partner, actually owned his catalog. So it makes you wonder about some things, okay? And also, that's December 10th, 1967, we lost Otis Redding. And the only person to survive that plane crash was one of the original members of the Bar-Kays, a brother named Ben Colley, the trumpeter. Ben Colley was the only person to survive, and he couldn't even swim. The only person to survive that plane crash, because actually it was two planes that took off that night. And one of the members of the Bar-Kays, he had a rental car that he drove back to a destination. So the plane that Otis was riding on, everybody died except for Ben Colley, the trumpet player who actually passed away last year. I went to his funeral in Memphis, in Mississippi area. To this day, there's no official cause of how that plane went down. But I told you, my friend and mentor, the late great Mr. Emerson Abel, who was the mentor of Isaac Hayes. He was the band director at Manassas High School when Isaac was going to that school. He actually kicked Isaac Hayes out of the band and ended up working for Isaac Hayes movement and at Stax. He was a performer at Watt Stax, and he was a brilliant musician and educator. He told me, Ron, there are no natural deaths in show business. Nobody dies a natural death in show business. So he knew Otis Redding and all that stuff. And he had some interesting insights to a lot of people in the industry that, I won't share at this time, but it was fascinating to talk to Mr. Emerson Abel about these people. But I bring all of this to say, we lost Otis Redding December 10th, 1967. On December 11th, 1964, we lost Sam Cooke, the man who invented soul, as they say. The king of soul, gospel, music extraordinaire, soul stirs, and all that stuff. We lost him under questionable circumstances at a seedy hotel or motel in, L.A., in South Central L.A., I believe. The Motel Hacienda, I believe it's called. He was allegedly beaten up on some prostitute named Alyssa Boyer, this Asian chick, this exotic-looking Asian woman named Alyssa Boyer. He allegedly was beating up on her, supposedly, and she was in fear of her life. And she ran to the hotel manager at the time, and allegedly the hotel manager was in fear of her life, and she shot Sam Cooke. And there's a picture of Sam Cooke lying in a doorway, basically just buck naked with just a suit coat on. And my understanding was that his last words was that, "Lady, you shot me." And then he fell slumped. She hit him on the head with a broom handle or something like that. And then he fell slumped down in that doorway in that suit coat, basically naked with only just probably socks on. And so there's a lot of questions to that story. Like, people are still questioning what actually happened. It was an open and shut case with the authorities out there. And, for a person like Sam Cooke, he didn't have to beat up on any woman to get some. He had babies all over the place from my understanding. He didn't have to beat up on any woman to get some. He was Sam Cooke. He didn't have to pay for it like that. Like even his relatives say, hey, my brother, he didn't have to pay for that. He's Sam Cooke, one of the biggest stars on the planet. Very conscious, was very a movement-minded brother. He wasn't what we call, like a lot of celebrities, we call some of the celebrities today, coons and all that. He wasn't no coon. He was a proud race man. He was born in Clarksdale, Mississippi, January 22nd, 1931. Clarksdale produced some of the most extraordinary music talent of the 20th century. You got people like not only Sam Cooke, but Ike Turner, who's underrated. And the people don't know his real calling as a music genius because of this white supremacy hit job with the movie What's Love Got to Do with It. And that's another story for another time. People like Muddy Waters, John Lee Hooker, a number of blues and soul artists are from Clarksdale. Even Nate Dogg is from Clarksdale. Smoke weed every day. He's from Clarksdale, Mississippi. And we got Rick Ross, not the drug dealer, but Rick Ross, the hip hop star. He's from Clarksdale, Mississippi. So all this talent come out this place, this vortex, just about an hour and 15 minutes outside of Memphis, Tennessee. Another one of those famous cultural crossroads. But getting back track on Sam Cooke, he grew up in Chicago. Started out in gospel singing, the Soul Stirrers, and ended up crossing over. Was one of the first crossover stars from the 50s. And he went from gospel to pop with "You Send Me," and the rest is history. And he was one of them guys who was very progressive. He wanted to control his destiny like an Otis Redding. He made a deal to own his own music. He was good friends with Ray Charles. Birds of a feather flock together. Birds of a feather flock together. Or fly together. Because Ray Charles, as was shown in the movie Ray, he was a businessman and he owned his masters. So him and Sam Cooke obviously was talking about this stuff back in the day of controlling their destiny through their masters, owning their master recordings and controlling their publishing. So Sam started his own record label to control his destiny. And he had a business partner, this Jewish guy from New Jersey, a lawyer, kind of like a Clyde Davis, named Allen Klein. Allen Klein was his business partner and his manager. So they set up a music company so Sam Cooke could control his creative intellectual property. He made deals with the majors to distribute his intellectual property, but he was able to enjoy and reap the rewards, the financial rewards, or so he thought. Around that time, I believe Sam probably found out that Allen Klein actually owned the company. He didn't own the company. And a change was going to come, like his famous song that was a posthumous hit for Sam. A change was going to come, but he didn't know what type of change it was going to be. Because also the year Sam Cooke lost his baby son in a tragic drowning accident at the house. They had a swimming pool. And his wife, Barbara, his high school sweetheart, I don't know what happened. She maybe was not paying attention. But the son ended up drowning in the family pool. And that hurt Sam. Sam is interesting because a lot of people don't know that he had a lot of heartache in his life. A lot of tragedy follows Sam Cooke in his life. His first wife was a little bit older than he was. And I believe she was a dancer. She died in a car accident. He almost was killed in a horrendous car accident in Arkansas. He was almost killed in Arkansas. Actually, his buddy Lou Rawls was in the car with him. He got hurt real bad. And what happened was the driver somehow ran into an 18-wheeler, I believe. The driver of the car was decapitated. His head was cut off and severed. I think they had to airlift Sam Cooke to Memphis to the hospital. He barely survived that. So a lot of things that happened in Sam Cooke's life that a lot of people are not aware of, but all you got to do is take a look. It's all online. But Allen Klein ended up playing a very pivotal role in managing and mismanaging the careers, depending on your sources, of the Rolling Stones and the Beatles. He might have been the person responsible for the breakup of the Beatles, because Paul McCartney sued Allen Klein to break his contract with him, which severed his ties with the rest of the Beatles, because the Beatles hired Allen Klein against the wishes of Paul McCartney. I don't think he trusted Allen Klein with probably very good reason, looking at his track record. But Allen Klein did make money for his clients, but he kept a lot of the money for himself, from what I read. And people thought they were being independent. I mean, like, for example, he would get the money from the majors for the artists, but he would set up his own companies to store the money in for whatever, tax breaks, whatever. But he would basically piecemeal the money to the performers. So they might have got a lot of money from the majors in their deals, but they were not able to get all their money from Allen Klein. He would just dole it out to them over time. So he really, at the end of the day, he was able to control Sam Cooke's catalog after he died. I believe his wife sold the rest of Sam's controlling his catalog to Alan Klein for about $100,000. And that catalog generates millions of dollars a year. Sam Cooke was trying to build generational wealth, and he was betrayed by a system of white supremacy racism. This is a story I saw. Lloyd Price, another R&B great from that era. I remember seeing this documentary about Sam Cooke. He talked about a story when Sam Cooke was talking with Fats Domino. No, Fats Domino at one point was bigger than Elvis Presley in this country. He was outselling Elvis. He was a bigger star than Elvis Presley. Fats Domino, a very talented, brilliant rock and roll pioneer from New Orleans. And Sam Cooke wanted Fats Domino to be his business partner in controlling their music. And basically, so Fats Domino allegedly said something to the effect that, hey, nigga, what's wrong with you? These white folks take good care of me. Nigga, I don't know what's wrong with you. Because we don't, it's still a problem today. Black folks, a lot of us don't believe in ourselves. The best religion you can have is believing in thyself. Believe in thyself. Do for self, believe in thyself. And a lot of us don't believe that we can do things. We don't dream big enough because we've been crushed down, we've been beat down so much by a very oppressive and repressive system that refused to deal fairly with us. We scream in equality when we need equity. We don't need equality because, okay, let's say we equal today, but the person you want to be equal with today had a big head start on you yesterday. So you might be equal today, but in the bigger scheme of things, you're not equal in terms of wealth accumulation. Sam Cooke understood that the idea and concept of a job is to keep folks broke and dependent. Once again, Sam Cooke understood at an early age the concept of a job. Somebody joked some years ago, a comedian, a job it means just over broke. It's to keep folks dependent. He wanted liberation. When people say, well, I vote for Donald Trump, or I like Donald Trump because he's a billionaire, he can say whatever he wants to, and nobody can do nothing about it because he got all this money. Sam Cooke wanted that liberation. He didn't think they were just reserved for white men. He wanted that. And he wanted to build generational wealth. He was a visionary. He was seeing the big picture. And they killed him. He died at the age of 33. Same age that Jesus was crucified, I believe, who was black. Otis Redding died at 26. Okay? So this is something that, take a look, it's online. I'm telling you all this stuff. Y'all gonna find all this stuff. It's interesting about Sam Cooke, his death and the aftermath of his death. They said that his wife Barbara was having an affair with a bartender, that the bartender came to the funeral with Sam Cooke's watch and ring on. Then 2 months later, she dumped the bartender and ended up marrying Bobby Womack, a great soul singer who's also Sam Cooke's protege. So Barbara, she was with the bartender. He came to the funeral of Sam Cooke with the man's, ring and watch on, allegedly. Then 2 months later, after Sam ain't really good in the ground and decomposing yet, she married Sam Cooke's protege, Bobby Womack, the soul singer. And I guess it's not anything out of the ordinary per se. Back in those times, I know reading about and seeing documentaries that Frank Sinatra was real close to Humphrey Bogart, and when Humphrey Bogart died from cancer, he was actually considering marrying his widow, Lauren Bacall. It was talks that Frank Sinatra was going to marry Lauren Bacall, Humphrey Bogart's widow, his mentor's widow, because Humphrey Bogart was the one who came up with the term Rat Pack, and Frank Sinatra real close to him. But for Bobby Womack to do that just 2 months after his big brother or his mentor, father-like figure died is kind of interesting. But anyway, and Bobby Womack's brother ended up marrying Sam and Barbara's daughter. So I guess it's all in the family. But getting back to Sam Cooke, I also know that you look at pictures of Sam Cooke's body, it's like he was beat up real bad. And a lot of people, including people like Muhammad Ali, doubted from day one that Sam Cooke was killed by some women. They thought it was a mob thing, a lot of people did. I know reading the description by Etta James, Sam Cooke had a big old huge contusion, a knot on his forehead. Also, Etta James claimed that his body was so mangled that his head was almost disconnected from his body. He was almost nearly decapitated. That's a description that Etta James said, allegedly attributed to Etta James, the late great Etta James, and that's online as well. So people can make their own conclusions. But who benefits? This is very Shakespearean. Who benefits from the removal of the king? Who benefits from the removal of the king? So I told you that Allen Klein, who died in 2009, an old man, a very wealthy old man, he controlled all of Sam Cooke's intellectual property, his company. So in order, if you wanted to make a biopic or documentary about Sam Cooke, you got to go through Allen Klein's family controlled company to get the rights to use his music in your movie or documentary or whatever project you are working on. So that it is crazy, man. It just, man, I'm just telling y'all how crazy it is. So same thing with so let's get to Kanye West. How does Kanye West figure in all this? I mean, Kanye, very outspoken, very vocal brother. We see the troubles he's been in. He has marriage issues, and also people say he has mental issues. He had that rant recently, but Kanye is well known for his rants over the years. Is well known for his boldness and outspokenness, as well. Not only in politics and in social media, but also in his music, in his fashion. Kanye is one of the most interesting artistic voices of his generation. He's a self-proclaimed genius, but he is brilliant. Thelonious Monk once said, "To be a genius is just to be yourself." Jazz great Thelonious Monk said it best: "To be a genius is just to be yourself." Kanye is brilliant. He's just being himself. A lot of people attributed his recent rant and quote-unquote mental breakdown to the tragic passing of his brilliant mama, Dr. Dundee West, who passed November 10th, 2007, and she was buried November 20th, 2007, due to complications from a cosmetic surgery that, around that time, I guess 9 years later, he's still dealing with those emotions and feelings of losing his mom in that type of way. Some would say prematurely, some would say, or feel that foul play was involved in some type of way. I don't know. People talk about blood sacrifices, and you see what happened to Jennifer Hudson's family, and Kanye lost his mom, and like people die every day. It's like what Tupac said: "Niggas been dying for years, so how can they blame us?" Niggas been dying for years, so how can they blame us? So this is an everyday thing, But with Kanye, people say that he's crazy, and I say he's crazy like a fox, because if you listen to some of his rants and some of his interviews, he do make some very interesting points. Now, I'm not going to delve in too deeply into the Jay-Z, Beyonce thing, but what I am interested in is like when he was on a Sway show a couple years ago, and he said, "You don't have the answer, Sway," or he was on the Breakfast Club, whatever. He was talking about the fashion industry. See, with white supremacy, everything's a blood sport. When I'm talking about blood sport, I'm not just talking about just wars and violence. I'm talking about bloodline. You look at all the presidents, like look at Barack Obama. He's related to Harry Truman, Lyndon B. Johnson, George Bush, Dick Cheney, and even Brad Pitt and some other people. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, they're both related. Jesse James related to John D. Rockefeller. It's a blood sport. It's about bloodlines. It's about bloodlines with white people, with white supremacists. It's about keeping it in the family. See, what is interesting is, even with the white feminists telling black women, you could be independent. You don't need no man. You don't need your family. But what did the white feminist does? She votes for her white man. She stands by her man. White women telling black women, we don't need all this, but who are the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action? White women. Who are they using to dismantle affirmative action? White women. Get with the program, black people, black women. This is a blood sport. This is a family thing. We are family. White folks all about the family. Why do you think Godfather's about? It's about keep it in the family. It's about the family. And black folks, we need each other. The reason why a lot of stuff happened to us, that would happen to Sam Cooke and Otis Redding and Prince and Michael Jackson, because we don't know how to stick together. We don't know how to be there for each other. We don't know how to go to war for each other and go to war for our interests. Yes, we know how to go to war when the white man tells us to go to war. You know how to go to Afghanistan and Iraq and Vietnam and Korea and Germany. We know how to do all that. But when grandma gets shot in the face by the police, when your nephew getting shot in the back by the police on the ground, not resisting arrest, you don't know how to fight. When your daughter is a victim of road rage, of white supremacist road rage, you all bedazzled and confused. When your grandma, when your great uncle getting shot up at church doing prayer and choir rehearsal, you don't know what to say. You don't know how to feel. You want to forgive everybody, but you can't forgive yourself. You don't know what the hell you talking about forgiveness. What that mean? Especially when they ain't asking for it. White supremacists don't forgive, and white supremacists don't forget. They never forgive. They don't forget. They don't care about your feelings. They don't care. Save that for some other shit. Okay? This is warfare. White supremacy, all they understand is military strategy and finance. Military science and finance are the hallmarks of white supremacy. If you messing with their wars and messing with their monies, you got to go. Dr. King had to go, not because he wanted to integrate a restaurant so he could eat some pork chops and some hamburgers, but when he started talking about Vietnam, about redistributing the wealth, redistributing the pain, he had to go. You start talking about messing with foreign policy, like Brother Malcolm X or Dr. King. When you start talking about messing with domestic policy, like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, you got to go. When you talk about we're going to feed our kids so they won't be starving during the day so they can focus on their schoolwork and achieve academically, you got to go, Fred Hampton Sr. You got to go. You talking about free health care for the poor and for black people, you got to go, Fred Hampton Sr. So with Kanye been very vocal about his career, about controlling not only the artistic vision for his career, but also the financial side of his career, breaking into the fashion industry, into the music industry, realizing that the fashion industry is a blood sport like every other areas of human activity while living in a white supremacist state. So, you got to pray for Kanye. You got to pray for protection and let the ancestors guide him in the right way, because these are perilous times for him, because he could be a blood sacrifice. I would not be surprised if Kanye does not make it out of December, based on the track record of what December holds for the Black Messiah. He did call himself Jesus. He sees himself as a Christ figure. He sees that they are crucifying him and persecuting him like a Christ figure. So he could be gone in December. And it's interesting that Kanye has sampled a lot of Otis Redding stuff, like on his song Gone. That's Otis. And then like when him and Jay-Z did Otis, a tribute to Otis Redding, they sampled Otis. I think he had Try a Little Tenderness. So Kanye is aware of the where he sits in the musical terrain, his place in music. He is very talented. I know people say he's not. He's very talented. Okay, there's no question about that. Like you look at his 808 and Heartbreaks, that was classic to me because it told of the future that was to come. Kanye West in his own way is like a Miles Davis. I know people don't want to Miles Davis. He is like a Miles Davis. He is in his own way. They got a unique fashion sense. They both artists. They both, because Kanye also did painting. Miles did painting. They got an interesting artistic vision for their music. They're innovators. They're iconoclastic. I want to say they both Geminis. So that makes sense. So they got two sides, you know. So anyway, anything can happen. Even Richard Pryor died on December 10th, 2005. Another guy who was persecuted and crucified by this white supremacist system. Richard Pryor died December 10th, 2005 at the age of 65. He also was born December 1st. Okay? Another great, you know. December 1st, 1940. So, even Richard Pryor, brilliant comedian, brilliant satirist, brilliant actor. He wanted to play the role of the sheriff in Blazing Saddles. Imagine how Blazing Saddles would be today if Richard Pryor was allowed to have played that sheriff role. Because Mel Brooks promised him that he would be the sheriff, but the white supremacists in the Hollywood entertainment industry complex said, hell no. Richard don't know his place. Richard ain't trying to kiss the ring and kiss our ass too much. Richard gonna be Richard. We're gonna teach that nigga a lesson. See, this is what happens when you don't control your destiny. When you don't control your institutions. You can never be liberated. You know, Oscar Michelle, the famous the famous black film giant that a lot of us are not aware of. You know, a lot of black actors and people always complain about not getting opportunities in Hollywood. But here's the thing, Oscar Michelle didn't have no budget. He was able to make all these movies back in the day. And he proved that there was a market for black movies. He was the one that pioneered black movies, okay, and the black exploitation. I know we think about black exploitation movies from the 70s, but he was, to me, decades ahead of that. Because he proved to the white supremacists in Hollywood that there was a black audience who wanted to go see themselves on a big screen. As a matter of fact, it was the black exploitation films of the 70s that saved Hollywood. I'm going to say Hollywood. Because Hollywood was on its way out. Because white folks was not going to the movies. It was black folks going to the movies that saved Hollywood. And they will never tell you that you got to do the research on your own. Also, what Oscar Michelle, what made him brilliant to me, was a quote he once said about how to make it in the business. I guess in the business world, period. He said a quote one time that I picked up on in a documentary. He said something to the effect that you need three things to make it. You need finance, talent, and distribution. You need three things in the business to make it, in the movies, whatever. Finance, talent, and distribution. If you control one out of the three, you have a voice. If you control two out of the three, then you are a force. Once again, he said three things: finance, talent, distribution. One out of three you control, you are a voice. Two out of three, you are a force. Check out Oscar Michelle. Take a look. It's all online. Even out his movies that survive are online. Like, he was able to put Paul Robeson in some of his first starring roles. And he's another story. A lot of us don't know about Paul Robeson. So why do you think we're going to know about some Future and Drake 40 or some Young Thug 40 or 50 years from now? We won't even know about people like Paul Robeson and Oscar Michelle. Just like, people will never give black folks our due when it came to the election of Barack Obama. If Barack Obama didn't have almost 100% of the black vote, both times he would not have been president. It was not a coalition. This is false narrative about coalitions and, white women. More white folks voted for Mitt Romney, I believe, than Barack Obama. And it was because he had the loyal black vote that has been taken for granted by even black people. And that's another story. Is it time for black folks to form their own political organization? It's been past that time. Okay? So that's another story. But what I'm saying is, talk about the isolation. Not being in community. A great point, Bill Cosby. What happened to Bill Cosby? Speaking of Bill Cosby, reason why I brought him up is a very important example of unity, having group unity. Because you look at Marion Barry, you contrast Bill Cosby with the late great Marion Barry, who was the mayor of D.C., who has Mississippi as well as Memphis roots. He went to Booker T. Washington High School in Memphis and also went to Lamar Owen College in Memphis before he became who he became. So he has his foundations here. in the Mississippi Delta. But here's the thing about Marion Barry. People make fun of Marion Barry, but Marion Barry is one of our most brilliant and visionary public servants. He really was one of the greatest black political leaders we ever produced in this country. Because what Marion Barry did was, and even in D.C., people, even white folks, love Marion Barry in D.C. because what he did, he made sure every summer that kids, regardless of your socioeconomic condition or background, you had a job if you wanted to in the summer. He employed the children. He made sure folks coming home from prison had a real second chance at life. He had a program called Pride. You can look all this stuff up. They gave black men coming home from prison a chance to become productive citizens of community, not only giving them jobs, but a chance to become entrepreneurs. It's because of Marion Barry that a lot of black folks was able to make money. Were able to get those contracts from the government and from the city in order to build their companies, in order to create black wealth. He's responsible for that. He's responsible for the hiring of black folks in important positions in government. Marion Barry, as a mayor, as an alderman or a councilman, he did all that for the black folks. He was the president of SNCC when it first started. So Marion did the work. So when he got in trouble with the law and his public image took a hit when, he said that bitch set me up, and he was set up. And even she admitted that he was set up. And they were trying to kill Marion Barry that night because had he not fell back when he was trying to smoke whatever he was trying to do, he could have died. And so that was just an act of God that he was able to not get the full contact on that high. Because he would have died that night because they wanted him to die that night. Because normally we do a sting operation, they will stop you before you actually commit something a lot of times. But then again, if you go back to the civil rights movement, well, Marion Barry is a product of the civil rights movement. You had the FBI saying, hey, yeah, we was in the car when they shot Viola Liuzzo, the white, housewife from Detroit who came down to help with the Selma movement. Yeah, we was in the car with the Klan when they pulled the trigger on that white woman sitting next to that black man in that car on the highway, and we didn't do nothing about it. They didn't stop it. So I guess it's not true. I guess anyway. But anyway, the reason why Marion Barry has that love is because he did the work for the people. He never separated himself from the people. So even when he had his political troubles or his image problems, people still supported and loved Marion Barry because he really cared about the people. He was not a crook. That's why they couldn't get him out of office because, yeah, his weakness was pussy and alcohol and all that stuff maybe, but he had a sincere love for the people. He did not get into politics. He didn't get into politics to make him and his cronies wealthy. He got it into politics to empower his people, to do right by his people, to serve the people. Like I'm going to paraphrase, I believe what Harry Truman once said, only a crooked politician will get into politics just to make money. Only a crooked politician will get into politics just to make money. And when Marion Barry died, he didn't have no money. He was no millionaire, but he made a lot of people millionaires. So he served the people, and people knew that, and they benefited. And a lot of folks were able to go to college for the first time in their family because of the jobs that Marion Barry was able to create for them. Like a lot of these kids were able to save up money for college, had other opportunities as well. So I say all this to say, so people would dig up Marion Barry bones right now and run them for mayor, and he would probably win. That's how much respect and love. The same thing with Maynard Jackson we did for the people of Atlanta. He created a black business class, a black wealth class that would put him in office, to reward him by putting him back in office. Like when he became mayor of Atlanta, he forced the white contractors to reapply for their contract bids at the airport. They had to hire minority subcontractors. So he was able to do those type of things. So we had that type of black leadership. But that black leadership like that don't exist anymore. Those days are long gone. That's another podcast to talk about. Yeah, Bill Cosby was a great philanthropist. He gave a lot of money to black institutions, black organizations, and black causes. Gave a lot of money. But then that 2004 pound cake speech at that NAACP event concerning Brown v. Board, the way he went off on black folks. You know, and Bill Cosby know about the struggle. He ain't no fool. I mean, he out of Philly, he out of Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? He had to go through some hardships coming up, you know, as well as being an adult. He went through some hardships. You know, he lost some things, lost his son, blood sport, you know, trying to buy a television network, and white folks gonna tell you, well, you know, you forgot where you at, son. We're gonna make you learn again. We're gonna make you lose a son. See, that was like bloodline. It's like we're gonna attack your bloodline. We want to make sure that you're not around, that there's no man around in the next generation. We want to make sure you can't reproduce yourself. So Bill Cosby, when that pound cake speech came out, and he told me it was okay to kill a person for stealing some pound cake. You mean my life ain't worth more than pound cake, Mr. Bill Cosby? I remember in Memphis some years ago, I'm never going to forget this. When I was looking at the news, and they said that a security guard killed this black man at the dollar store because he stole a dollar candy bar. Why would you kill somebody for stealing a dollar candy bar? You mean to tell me that that person's life was not worth more than the dollar candy bar? I'm not justifying them stealing it, but they must have been awfully fucking hungry to want to steal a dollar candy bar, and you killed them over that. So then when I heard that pound cake remark, I said, man, that's disturbing. But I think Bill was trying to say it because, you know, you got to be careful with the media. They'll take stuff out of context, and you take anything out of context, because the only way you could really get a fair assessment of their speech is to listen to it in its entirety. That's with anything. So I'm very wary when the media tells me to hate this person or to like this. It's like what Brother Malcolm said, the media is so powerful, they can make your friends your enemies and your enemies look like your friends, because they influence the minds of the masses. They're the most powerful thing on the planet. And what black folks got to understand, a lot of our problems come from believing the stuff that other folks with different agendas other than our own well-being are putting out there and saying, this is you. We got to reject that and come over our own and reclaim our narrative and come up with our own thing. That's why I'm doing this podcast right now, to talk about that. Because a lot of y'all don't understand. Y'all think it's just about jokes and bread and circuses, like Caesar said. Give them bread and circuses. Give them reality TV shows. Give them trinkets. Give them anything and everything. But at all costs, do not give them the truth. And the truth is out there, but they got us so hyped up on drugs and other stuff that they could tell you everything that they doing to you, and you can't even understand or comprehend what's going down. You can't even discern it, because everything is out there. They're not hiding anything. Everything is out there. It's being hidden in public. Everything is out there for you to, but you gotta have the discernment and the critical thinking tools to understand, to break it down, and also you got to have the commitment to share it with people. You know, and don't worry about if everybody ain't gonna understand it. No, everybody ain't gonna understand you. If everybody understand you, then you ain't doing your job. You know what I'm saying? Only certain people will understand certain things, and everything ain't for everybody. But whatever speaks to you, take that and do something with it. Whatever I'm saying to you right now in this talk, in this podcast, you might not, have a need for everything. But if I said something that resonated with you, hold on to that, do something with it, amplify it, okay? But Kanye, I'm showing you the Black Messiah thing is real. The Black Messiah sacrifice in December is real. I'm showing you the historical case examples, the historical cases of Fred Hampton Sr., of a Sam Cooke, of an Otis Redding, of even a Richard Pryor. I'm sure there's more, but these are the ones that came to mind when I think about Kanye. Because they say he's an outpatient right now. I guess about to get ready to get out into the public again. And a lot of people say, well, maybe this was a scam that he did. Like he was playing crazy because he didn't want to do the rest of his concerts. And, he got a payoff from the insurance companies. Maybe so, but, you think about Michael Jackson. His last concert tour that he never did was This Is It. And, the insurance, it was, they got the A, whatever the company was that was sponsoring his tour, they got a big payoff. They insured Michael Jackson. But ain't it funny, though? that they was able to make a documentary about the concert tour that never was. That they had all hours and hours of film on Michael Jackson's so-called rehearsing. See, the concert tour wasn't it. The so-called rehearsal was. The so-called rehearsal was the actual concert. This is it, right? The games they play. They knew Michael was not in any type of condition to do that type of extensive touring. That type of extensive touring. He was not in it. He was not in, I guess, tip-top shape. I mean, even if you look at that documentary, which I haven't seen in several years, I saw it in the movie theater. He looked very frail and fragile, but he was, one of the greatest performers that ever lived. But I don't think he would have been able to really finish that tour. How they had it set up. So that was it. That's an inside joke. Okay, it's like even when Whitney Houston laying butt naked on a cold floor dead. And my understanding, they said Clive Davis, her mentor, did not want her body removed from the hotel in order to disturb his pre-Grammy party. So was that a blood sacrifice? You got this his protege, this star, this legend line cold under questionable circumstances as his party goes on. Is it not a sacrifice to the gods? Are you not entertained? Think about Bohemian Grove. Research that. But yeah, Kanye need to watch himself, need to get back in touch with his roots. He need that Fidel Castro protection. Kanye West need that Fidel Castro protection right now, where he can survive all the quote unquote assassination attempts and live to a ripe old age and write about it. But like I said, even Kanye, he saw himself being crucified. That's why he called himself Jesus. Jesus was a black man. Think about all the black men, all the black messiahs we lost in their 30s. They got Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. at 21. Look how they was able to neutralize Marcus Garvey in his 30s. Deport him back to Jamaica. Look at Medgar Evers, 37. Dr. King, 39. Malcolm X, 39. Look at some of our African freedom fighters, like Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Steve Biko. The list is very long. They all got killed and taken out in their 30s. Something about black men in their 30s. Something about that. So Kanye, right now, he's 39. He will be 40 June 8th, 1977. So I say all this to say I wish Kanye West well. I wish for him protection. I wish that, he has some peace of mind. Hopefully keep on creating great music. I'm a fan of Kanye West. I don't listen to everything that Kanye put out. I got to catch up. A lot of times I wait a couple years behind everybody else to listen to some of the music that's current right now. So it might take me like a year or two to figure out what was hot at this moment. And that's that's the price of getting old, because really the music industry, they make their money off young people. Now, while I would say this, because a lot of our young people, our black young people are not aware of a Sam Cooke, not aware of an Otis Redding. But, think about this 40 years from now. Would they be aware of a Future? Aware of a Gucci Man or a Drake? No, but white folks, I do commend white folks for this. You got white folks, great grandkids are fans of Rolling Stone. You go to a Rolling Stones concert, they all geriatric. I'm surprised Mick Jagger ain't pushing around a stroller or a cane in a wheelchair. Keith Richards, they must keep him together with some type of they must tape his ass up. They keep him taped up and propped up. But yet they get sold out crowds. They can sell out arenas while they're approaching 80. Whereas, you a rapper and you turn 40, your own people think you wash up. You should retire, man. You 40 years old. But Mick Jagger could strut himself around and hop around and shit and have dentures in his fucking mouth at the age of 80 and still get paid and still have sold out concerts and still be relevant. Same thing with Paul McCartney. And yeah, we the originators. It's like somebody asked B.B. King, what he thought about the Beatles. It's back in the 60s. And B.B. King said all they did was re-import the blues. Because what people don't know is that the Beatles and Rolling Stones, they worship black men. They worship the black music, the black culture. Rolling Stone got their name from a Muddy Waters song. And they acknowledge that. The magazine Rolling Stone is named also for their Muddy Waters song. Brother from Clarksdale, Mississippi, who grew up in a slave cabin. That's how much power we got. Because when the blues and rock musicians, the black blues, rock soul musicians used to come to England, to the UK, for example, Willie Dixon, a lot of them cats, B.B. King would show them poor white guys who became known as the Beatles and Rolling Stones blues, how to play the blues. They would share that with them. People like Willie Dixon and B.B. King. Little Richard had, when he went on his European tour, Little Richard allowed the Rolling Stones and the Beatles to open up for him when they were nobodies. He allowed for them to open up for him. So when people say, well, Little Richard's over-exaggerating, he's not over-exaggerating when he say he invented rock and roll. Because Otis Redding was a big fan of Little Richard. Matter of fact, when he was coming up on his way to greatness, he actually replaced Little Richard in his band called the Upsetters. So he took the lead after Little Richard left for bigger and better things. So, and he allowed the Beatles and Rolling Stones to open up for them when they were struggling and basically living in their cars. And Otis Redding came over to England and Europe. He didn't even know how big he was. Because in America, white supremacy made black folks feel small, but everywhere else we gods. So even in America, a lot of folks didn't know how Otis Redding looked because, you know, they seen in the Five Heartbeats where they saw, they had their song, they had an album, they had their record out, but on the album cover were white people. So you didn't know what the Five Heartbeats looked like. Same thing with Otis Redding. They would not put his face on the album covers in America. They might put some white folks listening to his stuff at the beach or a picnic in the park, whatever, but they would not put the black Otis Redding on his own album covers. It was the pirate radio over in the UK that made Otis Redding and Stax and the Memphis sound very big. So when they went to tour, people were just happy to see how he looked. And they were very much happy to hear him in person, but they were surprised that he's a black man doing all that. So they fell in love with Otis. You know, they fell in love with their sound. So when B.B. King said all they did was re-import the blues, he was telling the truth, because if it wasn't for the blues, there would be no rock and roll. And there would be no Eric Clapton or no Keith Richards and Rolling Stones and the Beatles. You know, the blues man did that. The Robert Johnsons, the Muddy Waters, Sonny Boy Williamsons, you know, Memphis Minnie, Bessie Smith. You know, Janis Joplin loved Bessie Smith. It said that Janis Joplin paid for Bessie Smith's tombstone. Bessie Smith died in Clarksdale, Mississippi after a horrendous car accident on Highway 61. You know, I actually went to the hotel where she died at in Clarksdale. Bessie Smith, who was the inspiration for Janis Joplin. So I say all this to say, family, know thyself. Know thyself. Know thyself. It is so important. And develop that religion called believe in thyself. Believe in thyself. Also, another person I'd like to add to that Black Messiah DecemBEr list, Chad Butler, brother known as Pimp C. He passed away under questionable circumstances, December 4th, 2007. Pimp C, half of the legendary Underground Kings, or UGK, along with Bun B, out of Port Arthur, Texas. Hip-hop artists like brother Kanye West, very outspoken brother, did not toe the line for anybody, spoke his mind. I would say, quite frankly, that UGK collaborating, they were like the hip-hop collaborators, or the collaborating kings. It was UGK collaborating with Jay-Z on his big mega hit, Big Pimpin'. To me, Big Pimpin' is what gave Jay-Z, in my mind, credibility in the South, which was a large market back in the day. This is the days of Master P, Bout It movement, and all that stuff going down. Cash Money. But I believe that when Jay-Z collaborated with UGK, they really put him over. There was a powerful collaboration. And Pimp C, like I said, he spoke his mind. He was a cat that was exposing cats to conspiracy theories in the industry as well as outside the industry. He was hip. He was on to that William Cooper, Behold the Pale White Horse thing. He knew about that. So he was aware, he was woke in his way. I mean, he still had his career going strong, and he died before he was 40. But what's interesting about Pimp C is that he died December 4th. He died on December 4th like Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. But also he was born on December 29th like Fred Hampton Jr. Let me repeat that once more. I think it's fascinating to me that Pimp C died on December 4th just like Fred Hampton Sr., the Black Panther, died on December 4th. But he also was born on December 29th just like Chairman Fred Hampton Sr.'s namesake, his son, Fred Hampton Jr. was born on December 29th. So I just think that was interesting. I don't know what to make of all that because I know people are into numerology. I'm just not getting hip to all this numerology, number stuff, astrology stuff. But I just want to throw all that out there. Just some information I ran across I thought was interesting in my researches. But Kanye definitely, he been outspoken his whole career. He was the cat that said that George Bush doesn't care about black people during the Hurricane Katrina marathon fundraiser. Really, it bothered George W. Bush so much that Kanye said it that I believe he included it in his autobiography. And he really was pissed about Kanye saying that. But Kanye say stuff that other folks just think. That's why he is who he is. That's why he's great, because he's actually saying things just like Donald Trump. The reason why he got elected because he was true to himself, to thy own self be true. He was saying things that other folks was thinking or saying behind closed doors. So this is why people like Kanye West or Donald Trump are so polarizing. Not necessarily always their politics, but they dare to be bold by being themselves. And who can forget that the godfather of soul died 10 years ago on Christmas, December 25th, 2006, James Brown. We lost him during December, Black Messiah, Curse Month. We lost him, and it was interesting. I think about seeing some of the stuff on TV. They showed snippets of his funeral, I believe, on CNN. And you had Prince and Michael Jackson, along with MC Hammer, on the stage cutting up for James Brown. And we lost, we lost Prince and Michael Jackson since that time, 10 years ago. So, I mean, you can say this is a conspiracy or conspiracy, but all I'm trying to do is be a thought provocateur. I just want y'all to think for yourselves and do the research and come to your own conclusions. Just research the stuff I said in this podcast. I'm going to shut it down. Thank you so much for receiving and for listening. I'm thankful for the people who write me, call me, who leave voicemails, who send me text messages, words of encouragement. I need that right now. I thank you so much. I'm glad that my work is not in vain for you all. There's some people out here, like I said, your haters are your biggest fans, and I don't really pay attention to them that much. But like Brother Malcolm X said, he said, without criticism, you can't have success. With no criticism, no success. So I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I take what I can use and amplify it and use it to the best of my ability. So I want to thank everybody out there for supporting this platform. Please support this platform, because we are the source creators, all right? People want to take your stuff, not even give you credit for it. Want to re-upload it, undercut you, and here I am using my resources to give y'all this information, doing my research, traveling around the country, and next year we'll be traveling worldwide to try to bring you all this information that I could keep to myself. But I don't believe in that. I believe that you should share what you know, by any means necessary. And I want to see my people do good out there. But help me help you. Support the platform. Tell people about the channel. And tell people about the other things coming up. Because we're doing a lot of stuff offline as well, too. And I got to do a better job of promoting things that we're doing offline. But we are an organization. We're not just a news show or a tabloid show. We are an organization. We are moving forward. And I want to do great things for our people. That's humanity. Humanity. So thank you all once again for listening. In the words of Greg Duke Elton, we love you madly. Keep producing and pushing. And know that the best is yet to come. Peace.